The French Grand Prix is back in 2018, and it happens to have come to a place which, and this is going to sound like I'm bigging it up too much, was at one point somewhere I considered to be my second home. Circuit Paul Ricard has had a really important part in my career and my life. It's somewhere that I've got very fond memories of, somewhere that has brought me some of the most fantastic memories, as I said, of my career. And so I'm really happy to see not just the French Grand Prix back, because I've always loved the French Grand Prix, but that it should come here to Paul Ricard. Why do I love the French Grand Prix? Many happy memories from my early years of being a journalist. When I lived in a camper van for the year in 2004, Magny-Cours was actually my favourite race because the campsite resembled, it was like a music festival. There were 40,000 people in that campsite and it was nuts. And what's wonderful is arriving here in Ricard, the forests around the track, all of the woods are full of camper vans, they're full of tents. People are camping again. That same atmosphere of being at a music festival is here at Ricard, just as it was at Magny-Cours. I guess it's just an integral part of what the French Grand Prix experience is, but it's great to see that it's been brought over here to Ricard as it was at Magny-Cours. So interestingly, well, at least it's interesting for me, I came to Ricard before I came to Magny-Cours. So my first experience of a French Grand Prix track was here, not at Magny-Cours. I came here first in 2003 to write an article about Ricard for Formula One magazine. The circuit had very recently been completed. What's that, you say? They were holding races here during the 80s and 90s, and the circuit history goes all the way back even further than that. That is true. Paul Ricard, the pastis magnate, built this circuit, but it fell into disrepair in the 1990s, and it was when it was purchased by Bernie Ecclestone and put in the hands of the visionary Philippe Gurgien that this circuit was reborn, reinvented as the track we know today. Circuit Paul Ricard became a high-tech test track under Philippe's guidance. They built a beautiful hotel, which is, I believe, a 5-star or 6-star luxury hotel. They built an airport at the side of it. This place was so ahead of its time when it reopened in the 2000s. It was a dedicated test facility. That's why it's got about, I think, something like over 150 different track solutions that you can use here. You could replicate Monaco, you could replicate Suzuka, you could replicate any circuit in the world, and they had sprinklers all around the track. So you could have, I think it was between 1 and 3 millimeters standing, all running water at any part of the track. You could recreate any conditions you wanted. The pit buildings were all air conditioned. There were little engineering rooms out the back. It was, and then you took the steps up, and then there were hospitality units on top. It was so well thought out. Every part of it was just brilliant and beautiful, and that was Philippe's gift. I think his genius lay in the minutiae. It lay in the small details. Nothing was left untouched. Every morning he would tour the track and just make sure that the trees were growing in the right way, that the grass was green, there were no brown patches anywhere. He'd make sure that a screw wasn't coming out of a light fitting, or that if there was a crack in the paint, it would be filled and repainted. It was perfectionism, yes. It was, to some extent, if you worked for the guy, you would think, my God, he's the hardest taskmaster in the world. But it was all pushed by his passion, which just oozed out of him. When I first came here, I met him in the hotel, and we had dinner that night. It was the first time I'd ever had foie gras, and I've had a taste for it ever since. So I can thank Philippe for that. Sadly, he passed away 4 years ago, and I'm really sad, because I think a huge part of him would have been so proud to see the French Grand Prix at the circuit that he recreated, that he gave the world, this track. I think he'd be really annoyed that the pit buildings didn't get a repaint last week, because he would have done that. He'd be fuming. I met his son Carl for the first time yesterday, and we were talking about it, and Carl said, I think he'd be most angry about the fact that everybody's walking on the grass, and I'd agree with that. He was a wonderful man, and yeah, this place, this circuit, this is his legacy. But every circuit that's come along after this place has been his legacy. He was behind Malaysia when Abu Dhabi got onto the calendar and they needed to build a track, who did they turn to? They went to Philippe. He was a visionary and a genius, and I've described him as Willy Wonka because that's how you felt in his presence, that here was this guy that just got it, you know, loved the sport, loved what he was doing, and everything he created was perfection. That's what Ricard is. That's his gift, that's his legacy. And I can't come here without thinking of him and all that he's given our sport. So what else? Well, there's an amazing go-kart track here at Circuit Paul Ricard. First time I drove it was in 2004, and I drove here in between the San Marino and Barcelona Grand Prix because Jordan and Toyota, who actually based their entire Formula One operation here, were testing that week. And so it took a whole bunch of the boys and Dominic Harlow and Giorgio Pantano over to the kart track. Now Giorgio is one of my racing heroes and was one of the most phenomenal karters you've ever seen. And one of my proudest, I can say this honestly, one of my proudest moments came in that Giorgio was on pole and I was second by 1,000th of a second. That's literally the greatest thing I've ever done in a go-kart. It was a moment of huge, immense pride for me. When we came back here, and the reason that I said that this place has my heart and became like a second home to me was because during the GP2 days, when I was GP2 press officer, we did pretty much all our testing here. So we'd come down here 3-4 times a year. I loved it here. We organised a go-kart race for all of the GP2 drivers in the first year in 2005. They all had to draw names out of a hat, and so they all got random teammates, not their actual teammate in GP2. And it was really great fun. I remember Nico Rosberg turning up and he wrapped himself in bubble wrap and then fell back into his seat. So all the bubble wrap popped around him and he was snug then in his seat. It's a really fantastic idea. You know, if you can't afford one of those big rib protectors for karting, just wrap yourself in bubble wrap. That's the Nico Rosberg way. And I'll never forget Ernesto Vizo launching himself over the curbs and crashing down on the front of the kart. It was such a fun time, just amazing. I've had some other really great sort of driving experiences here. I came back with Infinity a couple of years ago to test drive some of their cars around the track, and then they had a speed test at the end of the day, which I won, and won a pair of signed Sebastian Vettel overalls when he was racing for Red Bull at the time, Infinity Red Bull Racing at the time, which I have framed at home and are very, very dear to me. And how could I forget a life-changing moment, courtesy of Lotus, now Renault. I got to drive a Formula One car here, the E20, with a roaring V8 engine. They had put some traction control on it, or I might have lost it. And I've got to say, firing up that back straight into Scenic Corner is one of the most astonishingly visceral, enthralling moments of my life. The speed was something else, and I got up to Senior and I'm like, I'm going to take this flat, I'm going to take it flat. And my little gentleman down there said, nah mate, no you're not. And my foot went woo, off going into Senior. So I have so many happy memories of this place. So I'm really happy to see the Grand Prix back. Particularly in this part of France as well, which I adore. Beautiful food, beautiful weather, beautiful wine. We're in the Bandol region here. The rosé is beyond compare. I'm effusive because I genuinely love this place. And I'm so happy that we're back. So yeah, delighted to be back at Ricard, delighted to be back in the south of France. Many moons ago, I had considered trying to buy a house down here, and coming back here now, I think I want to even more. I could come back here, I could live here, but I could come here on holiday all the time. Just need to save up a few pennies. It's the most glorious place.